What's going on, guys? John here with Jack for another episode of Talking Ball, and today we're looking at the Boston Celtics and their 2017 NBA Draft. And they definitely made some moves. They were in a lot of trade talks, be it with Jimmy Butler, maybe a little bit even for Paul George. They moved down from number 1 to number 3 with the 76ers, and they didn't they didn't get necessarily a lot, but they still got a great player who's going to help them going forward, and that's Jason Tatum. Jack, your guy from Duke going to your team in Boston. That must be a pretty nice fit.
Yeah, as a fan, obviously, I thought Jonathan Isaac had the most potential at the wing spot, but couldn't be happier, right?
Yeah.
And looking at Tatum's fit here, especially. Yes, they did add Jaylen Brown last season, but I just think that Tatum, his offensive polish differentiates from Brown, and they're going to be able to play together much more than I think people necessarily expect. And the Celtics really needed a wing who could create offense for themselves, and I think Tatum just is that to a T, and he's going to be able to come in immediately, help this team. Yes, he's not going to play the role that you'd expect a top 3 pick to play immediately, and that's why Josh Jackson didn't want to go to the Celtics. But I think over the long run, it's going to be the most beneficial for Tatum's development, especially because he's going to learn to play team defense and just become a much better player in the flow of the offense rather than playing more isolation.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And just talking briefly about Tatum and Brown together, I think Brown, he's a little small at 6'7", 225, but I think he can float down to the 4, keep Tatum at the 3, and, have a really solid, their roster already is loaded, but just have a really solid lineup there. And Tatum is just going to give you, the thing that the Celtics needed was someone who can score besides Isaiah Thomas, and they don't have too many guys who can create their own shots, and I think Tatum does exactly that. And and like you said in the NBA Draft review that we did, that in today's league you need offense, and Tatum is going to give you exactly that. And you can't ask for more than that. So I think it was a great pick for them at 3. Yes, Isaac probably had a little more potential, but Tatum is definitely has one of the higher ceilings or floors, of any player in this draft.
Exactly. So moving into the second round here for the Celtics, really where they've had a number of picks in the second round over the previous few years. They haven't been able to hit on any guy in particular. They've had some guys who, fans are excited about, like Jordan Mickey, maybe even Demetrius Johnson, but they haven't really hit on anybody yet. I think there's a chance that changes with Semi Ojeleye. Here's why. Because they needed help at the 4 position. They needed a guy who can rebound the ball, and I think Ojeleye, for a while he's known for his scoring. I think he can rebound, and he's athletic. And so I think really, people are talking about, is he a 3, is he a 4? I think he's a 4. I think he's going to come in right away and offer 3-point shooting and rebounding, and that's really what they needed from the 4 position. And to get him where they got him in the second round, I think was a good value for them. Their other 2 selections, Kadeem Allen, Jabari Bird, I didn't really love as much, but in the bottom 10 picks of the draft, it's a bit nitpicky. I just think that with them both being, Kadeem Allen's 24, Jabari Bird 23, they're very developed. They're both guards, and while the Celtics are a deep team overall, they're especially deep at guard position, and so I just think it's highly unlikely that either of those guys make the roster.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and those guys, you're just kind of, they must just be guys they like. They want to take the flyer on, and that's fine. But, as you mentioned off air, Jack, maybe taking a international player who you can stash overseas until they're ready to come over, until your roster is ready to have them, might have been a better decision there. But just briefly talking about Semi Ojeleye before we wrap up here, I think he was a perfect pick for the Celtics. I think he's just another guy who's just going to come in and just be a great athlete, give you great potential. A guy who has a high ceiling and won't need to contribute right away. As a rookie, can play some minutes here and there, playing behind guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and going forward will be. He's still pretty young at at almost 23. He'll probably be 23 as the season starts. Still, not the oldest guy. So he's got a lot of room to grow. And I like what the Celtics did with Ojale. I like what they did overall. Obviously, getting Tatum was a great pick. We'll see if those guys in the 50s pan out. But obviously they're not really expected to. It would definitely be a bonus though if they did. Jack, any last thoughts before we wrap up here?
Yep, one last thought here, and that's just a gentle reminder that Ainge said Tatum would have been the guy they picked at 1. While the return they got on the trade back from 1 wasn't necessarily what people were looking for, they still did emerge with Tatum, Ojale, a couple guys in the later end of the second round who maybe could make the roster, but they also end up with an additional likely top 5 selection, whether it be next season or the year after, which is very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. You cannot put a price on that. So, guys, let us know what you think about this Celtics draft, if you liked it or not. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for listening. We're out.